I was thinking about, you know, what is the power of political blackness is the fact that even still today, when the term isn't as in much use as it was maybe in the 70s and 80s, it's still something that gets people riled up. It still gets people something that people talk about. It's something that people want to resist. And that has to make you think about what exactly is the power in that we are still banging on about it now. And I think some of the reasons for that as well is probably because we still haven't come up with a language that where we can actually talk about ourselves as people who are oppressed into the system that's going to be happy for everybody to accept. But the reason why we'll never find that is because race is a social construct, and therefore we will never find anything that's going to be suitably explain our experiences collectively in a white supremacy. And just today, whilst we were talking about organising in the Labour Party with Black and Asian activists, again, this conversation came up around political blackness, and it started to derail the conversation from the organising that we were actually meant to be doing to again be discussing terminology. So I think, you know, this conversation is much needed because I feel like we need to start moving away from focusing so much on what we call ourselves and focusing much more on what we actually want to do together as a community. And also already pointed out by Barbara as well, the practical realities of organising on the ground is that you're never going to be organising with people who might share your politics if you're just going to base it on skin tones. There are plenty of Black and Asian capitalists out there who are quite happy to throw us all under the bus. So if you're just going to be creating a sort of dichotomy of these people are good and these people are bad, which is what is happening, we will never actually move forward to get anything done. So I think what I believe is happening is that we are starting to see what Paul Gilroy actually pointed out in the noughties, a kind of anxious, burgeoning middle class of, you know, Black people and people of colour, who are then scrabbling over the scraps in a space which is majority white, but then rather than actually addressing the whiteness of that space, they've turned it on themselves and are looking at other communities and taking scraps away from them, feeling that that will somehow move them further on. And I think that's something that we need to resist together as socialists and keep talking about the history of political blackness. Doesn't necessarily mean to bring back the term. I think, you know, that we can accept that things might have moved on and changed. But I think we should not be shaming or discrediting people if they want to identify as Black. As long as they are on our side, as long as they are working towards a socialist UK, I think we need to accept that those people are willing to work with us and just start from there. And that requires radical empathy. And, you know, as has already been said as well, this thing of, well, I've experienced this, you know, racism from this group or from that group, and we internalize it. And these are painful experiences. We can't just sort of sweep them under the carpet, but we also need to remember that part of our struggle towards our own freedom is going to be a painful experience. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be done through a hashtag. It's not going to be done because we, you know, decide to ignore a bunch of people that we're intrinsically connected with within this country. Then we're not going to get anywhere. And I feel like this feeling of helplessness, this pessimism that's kind of coming into our communities and therefore into our struggle are causing problems that, where it means we're sort of drawing our conclusions from ideas which are not developed here in the UK, that are coming from the USA, and we are not able to apply the same political practices in a way that we see either online or on the internet that, you know, get us excited, that look great. You know, we see thousands of people out in Portland or wherever it is, and we want to replicate that here. And because we're not able to do that in a way that is so, particularly for Black people, so visibly Black in that sense, I feel like there's almost, we've kind of put ourselves in a kind of competition with the US that we're never going to achieve, just purely because of the makeup of this country. And we just need to accept that and not feel shame in that, and actually think about what is it that we can achieve that would be powerful here within the British context. And that has been done before, where we've seen Black, Asian, and other communities joining us in marches, joining us in the struggle and fighting for that. So I think that's what we can learn from political Blackness. And I think what we are at the moment now is that we're at a sort of, if you want to call it an intersection, we're at an intersection where it could go either way. I think if we not continue to have conversations about this, we could quite easily start seeing ourselves drifting off into a kind of nationalistic, puritist, ethno-nationalist, just a borderline kind of Nazi kind of ideology that sometimes we see out there, where we're talking about people's skin tones, we're talking about people's heritage, as some people might have seen who've joined this talk. I found one of our fantastic activists from Black Lives Matter was exposed as being mixed race Asian. I mean, this is the kind of gutter stuff that we're actually dealing with in our movements, and we're wasting time and energy having to defend these people who are doing brilliant work in their community, and having to, you know, go over who is Black and who is not Black. I don't have time for it. And frankly, it's lazy. It's a lazy rhetoric. It means that people can sit about on the internet chatting all day without actually not doing anything. And also, the fact is, once we start getting into single issue struggles, it's easily to be destroyed. As Barb already talked about, I think there's roughly about 1.5 million Black folks in the UK. There's 4 million South Asian people. I think there's maybe, you know, 500,000 Chinese, British people. Collectively, we're huge. Separately, we're nothing. That's the reality of what we're dealing with here. So I think, you know, we need to keep talking about this. And yes, it can be stressful when you're met with resistance. But I think the more we educate people about what political Blackness was and its modern form of what it could be, whether we start calling ourselves people of colour, if people are really uncomfortable with being other people calling themselves Black, that's fine. But we need to find something where we can actually work under as an umbrella so that we can fight for our liberation. Thank you.